Welcome to the 2020 STEM Career Showcase for Students with Disabilities. My name is Ed Summers. I'm a blind computer scientist, Director of Accessibility at SAS, and I'll be your host for the showcase. Over the next few hours, you'll meet professionals with a wide range of disabilities that are thriving in STEM fields. STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and math. There is a tremendous demand for talent in those fields, and it's a great time for you to consider a career in one of those fields. Before we get started with the showcase, I'd like to tell you about a few accessibility features. First, you should be able to see an ASL, American Sign Language interpreter, in the bottom corner of your screen. Second, you can click on the CC button within the YouTube player to view real-time captions. And finally, you'll hear audio descriptions that are part of the primary audio track within the showcase. So for example, I'm a white male, and I have short brown hair, and I'm wearing sunglasses. The showcase is hosted by the North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences. The director of the museum would like to say a few words on behalf of the entire team. Please welcome the director of the North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences, Dr. Eric Dorfman.
Thank you, Ed. As Ed mentioned, my name is Eric Dorfman, director here at the North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences. I'm a white male in my mid-50s with short dark hair. I'm wearing framed glasses, and I'm in a blue suit with a gold tie. I'm so excited to be here and want to thank all of you for joining us today for what I'm sure will be a wonderful event. It's quite a turnout. I've been told that there are over 1,000 people here registered, including people from nearly half of the 100 counties in North Carolina, as well as 21 additional states across the U.S., as well as California and Alaska. I really couldn't be happier that we're reaching so many people. This morning I had the great pleasure to launch our latest fossil acquisition. It's called Dueling Dinosaurs. It's an exciting find where two dinosaurs, a T-Rex and a Triceratops, were locked in battle at the time they died. Over the next 5 years, our amazing team of paleontologists will remove these fossils from the rock and study them using their science skills combined with engineering and technology to make new discoveries about the way they lived. The STEM Showcase is about careers just like those paleontologists. It's the kind of thing that gets me really enthused about the museum and our ability to make a positive impact on people of all abilities, wherever they may reside. I'm grateful that we have a fantastic selection of people on the panel today who are passionate about addressing a truly global issue, that people with disabilities remained underrepresented in STEM fields. And our hope is that by giving you access to these STEM superstars, it not only informs you, but inspires you to pursue a career with passions with great consequence. Now, before launching into the rest of the program, I want to recognize those individuals and organizations that make this awesome event possible. Sincere thank yous to our sponsors JUMP, LabCorp, Red Hat, ERMCO, GridBridge, and the Bresler Charitable Giving Fund. Special thanks go to our sponsor and partner in this event for the past 8 years, Ed Summers and SAS Institute. And finally, thank you to the entire STEM Showcase committee. So without further ado, let's get to the program. Ed, back to you.
Thank you, Dr. Dorfman. And thanks to the entire team here at the museum. Let's review the schedule for the showcase. First, you'll hear from our keynote speaker. Then, you'll meet a diverse group of professionals that are thriving in STEM fields. Then we'll have a short intermission. But don't go far, because during the intermission, you'll get to meet some of the adorable animals in the live collection here at the museum. After the intermission, we'll leave this YouTube broadcast and we'll go to breakout sessions that are hosted in Zoom. During the breakout sessions, you'll have the opportunity to talk directly with our keynote speaker and our panelists. The breakout sessions are closed and they will not be recorded. However, you must register to participate. If you've already registered for the showcase, find the email that you received that includes the links to the breakout sessions. If you haven't registered yet, that's okay. You can go to naturalsciences.org/STEM, naturalsciences.org/STEM, and register right now. After you complete registration, you'll receive an email with the links to the Zoom breakout sessions. Let's jump right into the keynote address. Our keynote speaker is Dr. Gina-Maria Pomann. Dr. Pomann is a research scientist. She currently serves as director of the Duke Biostatistics, Epidemiology and Research Design Methods Core. Dr. Pomann earned her PhD in statistics from North Carolina State University. When she was at NC State, she served as an AT&T Graduate Research Fellow, as well as a National Science Foundation Graduate Research Fellow. Please give a warm welcome to Dr. Gina-Maria Pomann.
Thanks, Ed, for the introduction, and thank you, everyone, for having me here. I'm so excited to be here talking to all of you today. I wish that we could be in person and I could meet each and every one of you, but we are in the middle of a global pandemic, so I'm grateful that we can have this event virtually. And before I talk to you about harnessing disabilities for success in STEM and what I call statistical superpowers, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. So who am I? Well, I have a picture here on the first slide of me at my PhD graduate commencement, and I am a white woman, 5'4", long brown hair with brown eyes, and I'm in this picture. I'm standing at the podium giving a speech to my fellow graduates. And this picture is really important to me because about 10 years before it was taken, I was convinced that I shouldn't go to college. Not only was I convinced, but people actually told me that I just didn't have what it's going to take to make it through college. And so I should figure out a different pathway for myself. And I'm going to tell you about what I dealt with and what my path really looked like. But before that, I want to tell you a little bit more about myself. And I am not just a PhD statistician. I am also an animal rescuer. This is what I do in my spare time. So I have a picture here on the left. It's a very blurry image of a woman laying on the ground feeding a hot dog to a stray dog. And that was me on my front stoops trying to catch a dog that had been running around the neighborhood for months. And the neighbors were all convinced that he was going to eat their kids because he kept barking at them, and animal control couldn't find him and couldn't catch him. And I said, you know, let me see if I can get this guy to trust me. And on the right of the slide, I have another picture where he's in a trap, and that's because I was ultimately able to get him to eat a hot dog out of my hand and then out of the trap. And we got him in the trap, and we were able to see that he actually wasn't aggressive. He was this really sweet dog. And so on this next slide, I have a picture of me holding a leash with the dog in my backyard, and we were able to find him a wonderful home, and he's living out a very happy life right now. On the right of the slide, I have a picture with me and kittens crawling out of my arms, because I also tend to pick up kittens from the side of the road in Raleigh and rehome them. But I don't just rehome animals. I also sometimes fail at that rehoming part of it, and I keep them. So I have another picture here of me doing yoga on the beach in North Carolina with a tiny little puppy who is now an 80-pound gigantic monster who's waiting to love me when I get home from this presentation. So I do keep some of the animals. And it's not just animals on land that I love to hang out with. I love to hang out with the fish in the sea. I love to scuba dive. So I have another picture here of me scuba diving and climbing up off the boat with fins in my arm. And so I've told you I have a PhD in statistics, and I love animal rescue, and I love scuba diving, and I do all of these fun things. But what else is there, and what are we interested in, is my disability story. That's a big part of who I am and how I finally got to this place where I have this nice life where I can just play with animals and do statistics. And where did it start? Like I said, it started with me really thinking I shouldn't go to college because I'm not good at school. I thought I was just bad at math. specifically really bad at it. I couldn't figure out why. And things that I noticed about myself is that I don't learn when I read the same way that others do. So, my friend would read something and I would read something and they would learn something and I didn't. And so that was a big challenge for me, and I didn't understand why. And I also noticed that it takes a lot of effort for me to focus on one topic for long periods of time where my friends weren't really having that same issue. And I also had to check and recheck and double check and triple check what I would write to make sure I wasn't switching numbers or letters or words, to make sure I was actually getting what I wanted to down on that piece of paper. And so these were all really big challenges for me, and so made me think, I must just not be good at school. But about halfway through high school, I did find out that I have a mixture of ADD and dyslexia that actually explain a lot of these challenges. And one thing that I especially as a teenager, that I wanted to do is to try to avoid these challenges, right? To try to do things that didn't particularly require me to get better at or deal with those challenges. And that is appealing, but obviously that is not the only way to kind of deal with this, and one of the ways is to deal with it head on. And so what can we do, right? What do we do when we have these challenges ahead of us that we need to figure out how to deal with? And how did I really get from that point A to point B? Well, one of the things that I realized at some point is that addressing those challenges and actually embracing my disability was going to be really important for me to succeed. So here on this next slide, I have a picture of a mountain. And on this mountain, there's a little red path that has different circular stopping points. And at the top of this red path is a flag. And the flag at the top of the mountain is supposed to indicate the goal that we're working towards. And for me, that was my PhD. Now, I didn't really know it was a PhD. I just wanted to go to college. And when I was starting at the bottom of this mountain, looking up, it seemed really daunting, but I had to figure out how to kind of get to all of these different stopping points and to get up this path. And to do that, I really did have to embrace my disability and embrace the perspectives it was bringing me. And I didn't do this alone either, though, right? So I didn't kind of climb up this mountain or go down this path alone. I had advocates, right? I had my mother, who was there constantly saying, nope, I don't care if they say you shouldn't go to college, you're going to go if that's what you want to do, right? And I had different teachers saying, no, you can do this, and people that really cared for me. So, when I get to these different stopping points, advocates are kind of like the people that are sending you text messages when you get to the first point on the mountain saying, you did it, you got to the first point, you can get to that second point, you can do this, let's find you help and figure out what's going on. I also had mentors, right? Mentors are people who have been up the mountain before, at least part of this mountain, and so they've kind of traversed the path that you're going down, and so maybe they can tell you, hey, when you get to that third stopping point on the mountain, there's going to be a river and you might fall in, so make sure that you bring a change of clothes so that you have it, right? And so this is somebody that's kind of been down the path, and that really helps. And so there's all sorts of help that I got to traverse. But I think one of the really important pieces here too is where I started, right? Is what my perspective was looking at this mountain as I was about to try to climb up. And so on this next slide, I have 3 pictures of the mountain. Okay, it's the same mountain, but on the left, you'll see the mountain with a red path where you're starting at the bottom right of the mountain. That's where I said I was starting. And then in the middle, there's another picture of the mountain where you're right at, you start in the middle of the mountain and you go kind of straight up along a blue path. And then on the right of the slide, there's a picture of the mountain where you start on the left side of the mountain, traveling up an orange path. And really, depending on where you're starting at the bottom of this mountain is going to dictate kind of what the path is that you're going to take up and what kind of help and path or directions you're going to need to take. And so the point of perspective is great, but the reality is that when you're traveling up these mountains, for me, it didn't feel like I was going straight up a mountain. It felt like I was playing more like Chutes and Ladders. So on this next slide, I have a picture of the game Chutes and Ladders, where you're trying to get to the end of the game and you have to climb up these ladders. And sometimes you get really close to the end of the game, but you hit a slide and you have to slide back down all the way to the bottom and start again. And that's really more like what it felt like as I was traversing this path. And so that's okay, though, because as you're experiencing this, you're learning and you're learning more and you're getting better. And my point today, and what I really want to drive home, is that these differences or disabilities help us see perspectives that and solutions that others might not. So because of the way that, you know, we can see a problem and where we start and what we experience while we're traversing that path or chutes and ladders really is going to bring us a way of seeing the world that other people don't see. And so what that's going to do is that's going to benefit us anytime we're trying to solve a problem. But let's back up and just talk about perspective a little bit for a minute, right? What is perspective, and you know, what are we going to see differently if we have a different perspective? And whenever I think about this, I think about this famous picture by Escher of stairs that you can kind of rotate in any direction to see different things. And so I'm going to picture on the next slide. And for those of you who can see this image, notice, where do your eyes go first? Okay, what's the first door that you see? What's the first staircase that you would think about maybe traveling up? And if you can't see this image, you can do this exercise in a different way. Think about if you were holding a box in your hand, okay, and you can only touch the bottom of the box. Okay, that's the only part of this box that you can feel. And your goal is to kind of understand is how could I open the box, right? How do I get inside of this box? Well, imagine if you're holding the box at the bottom, there's one circular hole. So in theory, you could kind of put a finger in that circular bottom of the box and pull it open and get into the box that way. So now, rotate the box though. So now you can feel only another different side, right? So now the bottom of the box is different, and that's the only side that you can feel. If you're looking at the image, we'll rotate the image for you. Now, going back to the box, on that bottom of the box, imagine that there's now two holes. So if there are two holes in the bottom, then maybe it's easier to put two fingers in there and actually pull that bottom open a little bit better than if there was just one hole. So maybe that's the side that you're going to approach. And if you're looking at the image again, notice where your eyes go, notice which doors you're looking at, notice which staircases. What do you see in this image that is interesting to you? Let's rotate it again for another perspective, okay? So now you're looking at it from a different way and you're going to see different things. If you're holding your box, rotate the box again. And again, you can only feel the bottom. And then this time when you rotated the box, the bottom has a square hole, okay? And the square hole's kind of clunky. It's harder to get your fingers into, so maybe you're not going to use that side of the box, but maybe you will if you had a specific tool that was going to fit inside. Let's rotate it one more time. Rotate that box one more time. Rotate the image one more time. What do you see now? Where do your eyes go first when you're looking at this image? Maybe your eyes go to that table and chairs and that balcony that you can now see really clearly that we've rotated this image. And if you rotate your box again, maybe now the bottom of that box, there is no bottom. Maybe there's nothing there. You could just put your whole hand up inside of the box. And so really that's the side of the box you should be dealing with, right? And it depends on your perspective and how you feel and see and experience things as to how you are going to approach a problem, okay? And the argument that I am going to make today that I think is absolutely imperative for our field is that perspective helps us solve problems in ways that others haven't ever even thought of. And that is exactly what science needs. So if we can take these unique perspectives and these unique experiences in the way that we see or feel or think, then we can approach scientific problems and solve them in ways that no one would ever even think of to start off with. And that is why I am here today, because science needs this. Science needs diversity. Science needs these other perspectives so that we can get from where we are today to where we need to be in 10 years from now. So that's what I'm saying, right? How do we actually do that? Well, one of my arguments is that if we can figure out what that unique perspective is, then we can make it work to our advantage. Now, that's a tall order, right? Is figure out what your perspective is, what are you learning from all of your challenges, what makes you kind of unique in the way that what you can bring. That's a lot of work. And I am going to tell you more about statistics and how I was able to do that in my field because of my specific issues. But one of the things that I think, I really thought of while I was making this presentation is, what if I went back to 14-year-old Gina? And so I have a picture here of 14-year-old Gina with her friends. What if I went back to her and I said, don't worry, all of those challenges that you see ahead of you, the things that you think that that you really need to avoid and that you can't, that aren't going to help you, they're just going to be a challenge, those are actually going to help you realize what I now call superpowers, statistical superpowers. She probably would have laughed and walked away with her friends, but my goal today is to convince you so that you don't laugh at me and walk away with your friends. And so you really hear what I'm saying here, and I'm going to show you through example of exactly where my challenges were and how I think that they brought me superpowers and the ability to bring science to a new level. And so the first kind of superpower that I realized that it was bringing me is that I develop unique solutions to really complex math problems. But I want to back up and remember when I showed you my disability story, I said that I thought I was really bad at math, right? For many, many years of my life, probably until I was about 19, I thought that that just wasn't an area that I was good at. And the reason for that, though, so once I embraced the disability and started saying, well, why am I not good at this? It's because I process it differently. I think about mathematics differently than maybe the person sitting next to me. And so maybe I'm not as good at certain things in that field or thinking about it in certain ways, but I can actually do it in the way that I need to. And what that showed me is that I can also approach really complicated problems and use the way that I process math to actually solve them. And so I'm going to tell you about one of those problems. And this is a specific medical application of my work where I was working with doctors and researchers who were interested in learning more about multiple sclerosis. This is a disease that impacts millions of people worldwide. It causes a lot of disability and death and a lot of trouble that makes doctors really want to help these patients and figure out ultimately a cure for it. But first we have to learn about the disease, and one of the things that the doctors know is that the disease impacts the brain, and so they're constantly looking at the brain to try to understand what's going on and to help these patients and figure out how to treat them. How do you look at the brain? Well, one way is to take a magnetic resonance image, or an MRI, of the brain. And so a patient might go into an MRI imaging scanner and they get a picture, and what it is it's a 3D image of their brain, right? And so the doctor needs to learn about this 3D image. Well, to do that, what I want, you actually take slices of this image and can look at that. And that's, I have pictures of slices of one brain on this screen, and I'll talk about this image, but before I do that, I want you to think about how we actually get to it. And to do that, you can think about a tomato, okay? So if you have a tomato in your hand, you want to see what's on the inside, right? Brain, tomato. Not the same, but still, you want to see what's on the inside of this three-dimensional object. Well, you might slice it in half, right in the middle, and then you're going to look on the inside of this tomato or feel on the inside of this tomato, and there might be some seeds and some watery areas, and then some more tough, skinny kind of areas. But then if you take a slice, so that's if you sliced it right in the middle. If you slice it at the bottom of the tomato, you might actually have more of less water, less seeds, and more of that meaty substance. And so it's going to look different depending on where you slice it. But you want to learn about the entire tomato, so you need to slice it all the way through so that you can understand it. And that's exactly what we do with these images. When a doctor wants to view it, they kind of take a slice of the image. And that's what we're looking at here. So just focus on that first picture of a brain. It's labeled A if you can see it. It's a slice of the inside of one person's brain. And this is one type of image. I also have 3 other images that look very similar, but they're different in terms of the lighting and the coloring of them, kind of as you go down this way, right? And so you think about that, it's one image. Well, if you took a picture with your cell phone and you did all of these different filters that you can do with these apps, it's the same image, right? But it looks different depending on the filter that you put on it. And so that's kind of similar. You can take kind of different images within the MRI, and you can look at different things when you have different kind of filters, for lack of a better term. And so what we were specifically interested in is helping doctors to understand more about this, but also if you look at one of these images, C, where most of the brain is dark, and then there's a tiny little white area here that's called a lesion, and we were specifically interested in figuring out how can we find those. And so if a doctor were to do this, they would need to look through every single image and find it, and they would have to do all sorts of things to understand all the other images too. But we said, and this is what a lot of researchers have done, is that, well, what if we took all these three-dimensional images, all the different kinds of three-dimensional images that you could get that we're interested in, and put them into a computer and write a mathematical algorithm so that we can read in these images and then spit out an answer for the doctor so that they can understand where is that lesion or what is going on in the brain. And that's exactly what we did, is we were able to write a mathematical algorithm, code it into a computer, take all of these images, feed it through that algorithm, and then spit out something that could actually help doctors learn more about the disease of multiple sclerosis. So that's one really fun application of my use of this what I've learned through going down the path of disabilities. But what else did I say in that disability story? One of the other items that I mentioned is that I don't learn as well when I read, right? So it's just not as quick for me as it might be for a friend of mine. So yes, over the years I've gotten better at that. It's always a challenge, but if you do it enough, it does maybe get a little bit easier. But one thing that I noticed is that I had to learn, right? I had to figure out how to do this. And how do I learn? Well, I actually learn very quickly by asking questions and explaining my thoughts. So if I'm talking to you and talking about a topic, then it starts registering, and it really sticks in my brain in a special way that it wouldn't otherwise. And so that's great. It's not totally great in classes, right? Because if I'm sitting in a class and everybody needs to learn what's on the board, I can't exactly have a conversation one-on-one with the teacher. But I did learn that was a good way for me to experience education, and I started harnessing it. And what I realized is that I'm really good at it. And not everybody else is as good at having these conversations and learning on the spot. And so I ended up in a career where I'm using statistics to work with doctors on these medical problems. And think about that. That is exactly what I need to do. I need to be sitting with these doctors, talking to them, learning about their clinical area, learning about the research questions that they're interested in and the kinds of patients that they treat, and all of the different scientific components to what they do. And then I've got to be able to explain my thoughts in terms of statistics and data so that we can talk about how we're going to actually solve a problem in their field. And so this is another project that I worked on with one of the doctors at Duke University, where and I really enjoyed this one because he's always very interested in figuring out how he can make life better for these patients. And so this is a plastic surgeon who he does a lot of reconstruction for breast cancer patients. So if a patient comes down with cancer, a lot of the time what will happen is they'll need to get something called a mastectomy or partial mastectomy, where they have some of the breast tissue removed, and then they need reconstruction in that area. Well, they may choose to get reconstruction in that area. And this doctor is the one that will come in and do that reconstruction of the breast tissue. And so what he was noticing, though, is that some of his patients were coming back after surgery and saying, my chest feels cold. And it was really bothering them. It was causing issues. And he didn't totally understand why. And he started investigating that. And we talked about it. We would talk about what was happening and why were they experiencing this, and how does he think he could fix it potentially if it's really happening, and how do we even figure out what is happening, right? So somebody says that their chest feels cold, how do you measure that? Well, we have to take their temperature, right? So we had to collect a bunch of data on patients and take temperatures in all of these different ways, and then evaluate all of this data to truly start to understand what is going on with these patients and how can we actually help them. And so this was a really interesting application of how I use this superpower, that I'll call it, or a disability that I learned by asking questions and explaining my thoughts, and how I used it to really help science. But there's more. So I also told you that it's hard for me to focus on one topic for a long period of time. And that's because, right, if you really embrace that and and look at what the perspective is that I'm experiencing, it's because I have all these different thoughts in my mind at any given time. Even right now, as I'm talking to you, I might have something in the back of my mind going on. And so, yes, I've gotten better over the years at taking all of those things and pushing them out so that I can focus on you and give you this presentation. But it's still a challenge. And one, even more importantly than the fact that I can do that, right, and is that I actually multitask really well, right? I can have all of these things going on in my brain and deal with multiple problems at once. And I'm also, one of the other things that I told you is that I have to double check my work a lot, right? And I have to triple check what I write down to make sure it's right. Well, over the years, what that does is it makes you really meticulous, and it gets you pretty good at double checking your work and other people's work. Well, both of these items, right, the fact that I multitask and the fact that I can double check other people's work, they really came to my advantage when I started running a group at Duke University to do statistics throughout the School of Medicine. And so I have here on this slide a picture of a lot of the staff that work with me in the BERD core, the Biostatistics, Epidemiology and Research Design core at Duke. And all these people direct report up through me. And they work on projects all over the School of Medicine, from kidney disease research all the way to COVID now. And I have to be able to multitask and deal with all of the different projects that they're working on and double checking their work and making sure that everything that's coming out of our group is solid so that we're doing the highest level medical research that's possible. And so those are the perspectives that I evaluated over this long period of time and this traversing up a mountain that really ended up looking back at it. Yeah, it's my disability. I have differing abilities. I like that term a little bit better, but I think it's actually brought me some superpowers. And so that's biostatistics, though. So I've talked to you a lot about statistics. You know, I have a PhD in statistics, and these are all the medical applications. So this is a field where you basically take your knowledge in statistics and apply it to medicine and public health. But statistics is even more than that, right? So I have a general degree, and I learned about so many different areas while I was going to school and even after. And so if you get a degree in statistics, you can do anything from climate change to presidential elections, and the list goes on. And I'm really excited to have this breakout session. So if you're interested in learning about any of these areas, I'm going to be really happy to talk to you about any of these topic areas in the breakout later. And so to wrap up, I will leave you with the fact that I really truly believe that embracing a disability can bring us strength that will lead to success, but even more importantly, it's going to lead to new, innovative, incredible methods in STEM. And so we have to embrace that diversity and that adversity and all of the experiences and the challenges, because that's how we're going to be able to bring this field to a whole new level. And one of the messages, though, in embracing that is not to do it alone, and try to find mentors and use the mentors that you have, use your advocates, ask for accommodations and help unapologetically, because those are just the things that we need to help science get to the next level. And so, again, I'll say diversity makes science better. Whatever those challenges, the adversity, the disability that you're figuring out how to address, the problem-solving skills that are developed through that process are absolutely vital, and they bring perspective that is ultimately going to help our society by doing good work. And so I will leave you with that, and I'm excited to be in the breakout session later to answer any questions. And I'll say thank you so much to all of you for listening to this presentation, and to the museum and all of the sponsors of this amazing event. And a big thank you goes to the Clinical Translational Science Institute at Duke University, and Julie McKeel and Matthew Ray, who helped me make this presentation, and all of the wonderful people that are here. So thank you, and back to you, Ed.
Thank you, Dr. Pomann. I can't wait to continue that conversation in the breakout room after the intermission. Now it's time for our panel discussion. Our panel includes a group of distinguished and accomplished individuals. Welcome to you all, and thanks for joining the showcase. All right. Can we just do a quick mic check for all of our panelists?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having us.
Okay.
Thanks for having me.
Hello.
Thanks for having us.
Great. Thank you. So I'd like to give everyone a chance to both audio describe themselves and introduce themselves. So I'll call on each of you in turn, and let's start with Sherry.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Shiri Azenkot, and I'm an associate professor at Cornell University in the New York City campus. And I am in my mid-30s. I'm a white female. I have brown hair and blue eyes.
Thank you, Sherry. And next, let's go to Kayla. Do we have Kayla's on? Kayla's audio on? Okay. I don't hear Kayla's audio, so let's go to Jamey.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jamey Edson. I am a talent scout, also kind of a recruiter for Red Hat. I am 31 years old. I am a white male. I have brown hair, a brown beard, and brown eyes. I currently have a royal blue suit and a light blue dress shirt as well. And behind me is a pretty boring wall.
Thank you, Jamey. That's an excellent audio description. Thank you. And next up is Brandon.
Hey everybody, my name is Brandon Winfield. I'm the CEO and founder of iAccess Life. I'm an African American that is 27 years old with black hair, a black mustache, and black beard. I'm currently wearing somewhat of a gray and white pinstripe shirt, and I also have flooring background as well. That is a white wall.
Thank you, Brandon. Okay, and is Kayla back on? Can we pick up Kayla's introduction?
Brown beard and brown eyes. Hey, hi guys. Sorry about that. Cooking malfunction. But I'm Kayla Williams, and I'm an African American female with mid-length hair, 23 years old, and I'm sitting in my own office, but you can't tell my background. And I'm an IT analyst at Eli Lilly, and I'm excited to be here.
Okay. And I hear a little bit of echo in there. If somebody is running the YouTube feed, maybe can you close or mute the YouTube feed? I can hear that coming back into our audio here on the Zoom. Now, it's a tradition here at the showcase to have a lightning round. And the lightning round is just some really quick questions just to break the ice and get things started. And the first question, I'll tell you the first question, and then for each of these, let's just go in the same order that we were introduced. And let me just repeat, that's going to be, let's do alphabetical order, reverse alphabetical order. So Sherry, and then Kayla, and then Jamey, and then Brandon. And just blurt out the answer as fast as you can, and we'll just move right through the lightning round. First one is, are you a dog person or a cat person?
Definitely dog.
Kayla? Kayla, are you there? All right, we'll come back to Kayla. Jamey.
Definitely a dog person. Have two.
And Brandon.
I'll make it boring. I'm a dog person as well.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with dogs. Okay. And Kayla, are you back with us, or give you a chance to answer?
Prefer dog.
Okay. Oh, it's unanimous. Dogs for everybody. Great.
Off the board.
Okay. Next up, Xbox or PlayStation?
Ooh, I would have to say neither.
Okay, that's a valid answer. Kayla?
Same. I didn't want to be the only one. Either.
Jamey?
Well, I think I will go with PlayStation.
Okay.
Wow. I guess finally we got some different answers here. I'm going to go with Xbox. I've always been an Xbox person. Me and my roommate actually quite often fight about this. So Xbox, and I hope he's watching.
Okay. Yeah, and not everybody plays games. So some of these questions are trick questions. How about, okay, this one, I know everyone would have an opinion. iPhone or Android?
iPhone. That's an easy one.
Kayla? Sounds like
I'll
she's
go with Android.
Oh, okay.
Once again, I hope my roommate's watching. iPhone.
Brandon, you must live in an interesting house there with your roommates.
Yeah, it's a house divided, that's for sure. Keeps me on my toes though. Never a dull moment.
Wonderful. Okay, here's another one. Star Trek or Star Wars?
I'm going to have to say Star Trek.
Kayla?
Neither.
Neither. That's all? Okay.
Sci-fi is not my thing.
I'm going to go with Star Wars.
I'll go with Star Wars as well. I never really got into Star Trek. I think it was a little too before my time. So Star Wars.
Okay, that's great. Okay, here's another one. Okay, you might not like this one. Some of you might not like this one either. Marvel or DC?
Oh, I'm neither. Not my realm.
Same.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Marvel.
I'll go with DC. I like DC comics. Those are great. I'm not a big comic person, but DC for sure.
Okay, full disclosure, guys. I have 2 teenagers at home, and they helped me develop these questions. So clearly, I need to go back and get a better hit rate on my questions. Okay, I'm going to skip that one because I know some of you won't like this one either. Okay, here's one for everybody. If you could shapeshift into any animal, what would you be?
Some kind of bird, I would say.
I'm thinking maybe a lion. They're pretty, strong, courageous.
Great.
I'm a big fan of snowboarding, so I feel like I'll have to go with penguin. Plus, they get to swim all the time.
That's a great answer. I know I said dogs earlier, but I'm a really big fan of big cats. But my favorite big cat of all is a cheetah, just because of the way they move and how elegant they are. I think there's something really beautiful about cheetahs. So that's what I'd have to go with.
Okay, thanks to all.
Yeah, I just want to add to my answer that I want to be able to fly. That's why I would say a bird.
Yeah. Okay. These are deep psychological questions, by the way. We're revealing your inner truths here. Okay. What is your favorite place on Earth?
There was this beautiful garden not too far from where I lived in Seattle that was right on the water, and I loved that place.
Great. Kayla?
I was going to go with Barcelona because I'm pretty much obsessed with their food, and it's pretty beautiful there.
Wonderful. Jamey?
And I have to go with Waterville Valley. It's a mountain for skiing and snowboarding, but to me, it's heaven.
Great.
Yeah. For me, I'm going to have to go with Italy. I went to San Marino, up in this kind of like beautiful, grassy, tall hills, big mountains kind of area. And you could see the ocean from there as well, and just see all this kind of like winding mountain ranges. It was probably definitely the most breathtaking place that I've been to so far.
Okay. That's great. Wow. Sounds wonderful. And just the last couple here. What song do you absolutely love, but you're embarrassed to admit it?
Oh man, what are you doing to me? I'm gonna have to say probably Britney Spears' first hit song. That was like right when I was a teenager and was listening to it obsessively.
Great. Kayla?
You said what song?
Yes, what musical song? Uh-huh.
I don't think I'm embarrassed of any song. I don't really care what song I like. I like any song, so it doesn't matter for me.
Okay. Yeah, that's wonderful.
I'll go back to the 90s and songs that I think will never die. If you've ever heard Eiffel 65's Blue, that'll be stuck in your head for about 20 years.
I'm going to have to go with Ironic by Alanis Morissette or Linger by the Cranberries. Those are definitely a couple songs that I love that I'll probably never tell anybody else about other than everybody that's here.
Great songs.
We won't tell anybody. Okay, last one, guys. And this is a challenge for one of you to step up and sing a few bars of one of the songs you just mentioned.
Nobody.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
nobody. All right.
I think I could probably make it through the whole song, but I won't do that to you.
Yeah, I'm gonna spare everybody as well.
Good thing you didn't mention an instrumental. Okay, let's move on to the real questions here in the showcase. The first one is just take a few minutes or take a minute and describe your job. What do you do on a daily basis? And let's start with Brandon.
Perfect. So I am the CEO and founder of a mobile application called iAccess Life, which allows users to rate, review, and research locations based on their accessibility. So pretty much in my day-to-day, it's a good question because it changes every day, essentially. No one day is the same. Right now, we are focused on raising funds. So a lot of my day-to-day involves investor reach out, working on partnerships so that the investor reach outs go a little bit smoother, as well as just trying to bring more users to the application and just making sure I stay focused as well. That's always a battle every day, is making sure that you are doing what you're supposed to be doing and not getting distracted by everything else.
Yeah, amazing. Wow, I can't wait to dive into that. And let's just go in alphabetical order. We'll go next to Jamey.
Sure. So my day job is a talent scout. Very much like a recruiter, I reach out to software engineers and varying other computer science originating career-based people. And I try to attract them to Red Hat for various open positions that we have. But I also reach out to external and internal communities built around various different diversity groups. I'm the leader of one of them for individuals with diverse abilities, is how we call it. But that partnership with diversity and inclusion groups across Red Hat, which is where I work, allows me to interact very heavily with the industry at large in various different groups. So I'm able to hopefully bring them into Red Hat and hire them. So, yeah.
Wonderful. Jamey, I predict your breakout session is going to be slam full.
Happy to talk with everyone.
That's great. Next is Kayla.
Hi guys. So I'm an IT analyst at Eli Lilly. Eli Lilly and Company is a pharmaceutical company, but pretty much I work on various projects, pretty much working with business partners, come up with technical solutions, but on a day-to-day basis, it could be meetings, it could be answering emails, or just kind of figuring out what to do next or working on projects.
Great, thank you. And Sherry.
Like I said, I'm a professor, so most people think that means that I teach all day, but actually that's a pretty small part of what I do. I mostly do research, so I work with PhD students, sometimes also master's students, and we work on different projects that have to do with technology for people with disabilities. So we design different technologies, like different software or hardware systems. And then I also teach one class every semester. And then I also have a bunch of other random things that constantly come up, like writing grant proposals and serving on various committees and things like that.
Oh, okay, that's great. And Sherry, let's stay with you for the next question, and we'll go back in reverse order. When Gina-Maria was speaking, she spoke of her, I guess, indirect route to finding what she was good at and finding her profession. How did you choose your career, Sherry? Was it just a direct, something you always knew, it was a direct path, or was it more of an indirect route like Gina-Maria's?
Well, it was fairly direct in the sense that I grew up in the Silicon Valley, so and my degree is in, all of my degrees are in computer science. So I was surrounded by people who were doing different things related to technology and computer science. So in that sense, it was direct. I kind of had a strong idea of what I wanted to do. You know, I had a lot of support pushing me in that direction. But I never thought in a million years that I'd be working on anything related to disability. So that came about in a very roundabout sort of way. Growing up, I wanted absolutely nothing to do with disability. And I wanted to get as far away from it as possible, in fact. And it took me a while up until after college and once I was already working that I was working as a software developer at the time. And I was looking for something more meaningful. I didn't feel that, you know, developing software at the companies I was working at was really helping anyone live a better life in any way. And going back to what Gina was saying about finding your superpower, I realized that using my personal experience and my unique knowledge and perspective was actually some way for me to give back, or at least to do something that I felt actually made a positive difference in people's lives.
Oh, great. And next, let's go to Kayla.
All right. So for the longest, I thought I was going to go to med school, be a doctor, right? But then around high school, I started hearing more about technology and engineering. And then from there, I kind of got interested. And then when I went to college, I started off doing technology programs. And that's pretty much how I transitioned into it. And then I've just been in tech ever since. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And Jamey.
So I wound up here, I suppose, by virtue of growing up in a recruiting household. I certainly did not set out to be a recruiter like my parents, but I wound up going to college for a variety of things. I never really found a degree program that I was super passionate about, so I wound up in management information systems, which sort of blurs the lines between business and computer sciences. And the practical experiences I had growing up with a recruiter for a mother working from home all the time was that I already knew a little bit about that. So I wound up in recruiting, and 10 years later, I've wound up being able to give back and contribute and improve diversity metrics at a company that is supporting my efforts. So I'm very lucky and very happy to be in a very winding path here, and happy to talk about all those pivots later.
Yeah, great. And Brandon, for you, was it a direct path or was it a roundabout path like Gina's?
It was definitely a roller coaster of a path for sure. I would say my passion ended up finding me more than me finding my passion. I was injured in a motocross accident when I was 14 years old. That left me paralyzed from the chest down. I'm a T7, T8 complete injury, and I use a push wheelchair now. So I was kind of left to find out what my identity was again, because my identity really stemmed from being somebody that was adventurous and like to do things on two wheels and do things with motors and kind of be very competitive that way. And after that happened, I had to kind of figure things out again. And I started to realize that I had kind of a passion and a knack for trying to make people happy and kind of show, I guess, my personality and my light as a person. And I figured that could help other people out through their journey as well.
Yeah, right. Wonderful. And now you're delivering a product that enables lots of people to get access to the things they need in life. It's great.
Exactly. That's the plan. I met a lot of people when I was in rehabilitation that didn't have the fortune of what I had. I knew the risk of what I was doing. So when I got hurt, it sucked, but it wasn't like, a big surprise. A lot of people that I got to meet, they got in an accident and they'd probably never been in an accident in their whole life. They're in the wrong place at the wrong time, and now their life is just completely changed. And I think the common misconception is that people with disabilities or people with mobility impairments don't live a fruitful life or a very exciting life. And my whole goal is to show people that that is, completely wrong. That's a really big misconception. And, we still like to go out and have fun and be a part of the community and go to concerts and go to restaurants and go out on dates as well. So that's the ultimate goal of what we're doing at iAccess Life.
That's wonderful. Excellent. Okay, so next question. We're going to start with Jamey. Of course, we'll go to everybody. But Jamey, this one will start with you. And if you guys haven't had the opportunity to talk about your disability yet, if you would, kind of weave that into this answer as well. So Jamey, have you been able to leverage your disability in your career at Red Hat?
Absolutely. And I'll kind of briefly highlight what my disability is. I have something called sacral agenesis, which means L4 and below never really fully developed. So I've been on crutches for 25 years, and it's kind of always been part of who I am. But part of going out in public on crutches means I tend to stand out. And as a recruiter attending conferences and actually looking for individuals of computer science backgrounds to, take 5 seconds out of their busy conference time to, hear some recruiting spiel about a company that they don't necessarily plan on working for, taking that time, finding that I stand out in the crowd and being able to take advantage of that attention has always been something that served me very well. So breaking the ice, using my crutches to stand out, and being able to take that attention and bring it into what actually is a success measure for my role has been a blessing. So,
Yeah, that's terrific. How about you, Kayla?
So for me, I'm an early career professional, so I really haven't had the space where I needed to leverage my disability, but I will mention I'm deaf, but I do wear a cochlear implant. And it's more so been leveraging outside of the workspace, so that's just different in terms of being involved in, different community or just being involved in doing panels like these. That would be my way of leveraging it, but never really have the space where I needed to do it just yet, just because I'm still early in my career.
And what are you doing outside of career in the community? Is there anything particular that kind of where you blend your disability and your career together outside of work?
Yeah, so like, for example, I'm part of Deaf Kids Code. So part of that is pretty much talking to people, kind of sharing experience with like being deaf and how to navigate that, especially when it comes to technology. So that's one way of me kind of using that.
Yeah, terrific. How about you, Sherry? Are you able to leverage your disability at work?
Yeah, definitely. So like I said, my research is in accessibility, which involves designing technology for people with disabilities. So I have a visual impairment. I have low vision. And a lot of the research that we do is for people with low vision. And I found over the years that it's very difficult for people to understand low vision. This is something that I think was difficult to deal with, growing up. Yeah. And I think it's also a reason that there's really not very much innovation in the area of low vision technology, in my opinion. So I find that I can actually use this experience that I have, with my firsthand knowledge and perspective to design technologies that tackle problems in completely new ways for people in this population.
Perfect. That is wonderful. And Brandon, it seems like you've built an entire company around, based on your personal experiences with your disability. Is that right? Or?
Yeah, that would be correct. It really stemmed from just going places with friends or going out on dates as I got older and going to new cities and new places that I wasn't familiar with and having to learn the hard way that I couldn't get into a location, or if I was trying to use the bathroom, that the door was too small or there wasn't a handicap accessible stall. And then, for me, I have like a 30-second to 1 minute window if I got to use the bathroom, and going next door to the next place doesn't really work in that situation. So I got tired of feeling like I was a burden to some people. If we're trying to go to a location that I couldn't get in, that everybody wanted to go to, I kind of felt like the person that stood out and like I was making the time worse for everybody else. So I just kind of wanted to take that away, and I wanted to take that stress away. Everything that we do in a wheelchair with a mobility impairment or any sort of physical impairment is pretty much planned out. We have to kind of know about access and how we're going to be able to do things to feel comfortable before we go out. And that's ultimately what I want to provide people is comfort and peace of mind.
Yeah, that's terrific. Okay. The next question, we'll start with Kayla. And it is, did your disability impede your education in any way? And if so, how did you overcome those obstacles? Kayla?
So there were definitely some challenges. At times, I went to University of Michigan, so you can imagine it's a really large campus, so completely different. But one of the things I was fortunate to have was the Disability Center. So there were different people that's pretty much devoted to a certain type of disability you have. And I was fortunate that I had a person who pretty much devoted her time for a deaf, hard of hearing student. So she pretty much was there by needing any additional resources such as technology, like microphones, note takers, that kind of thing. There were other challenges that may have happened outside of classrooms, but she was there. There's a lot of things I can share that happened, but I think the main thing is just having someone to advocate for you. So I advocate for myself a lot, but sometimes some people don't always listen to you. So when you have someone else that kind of have more authority in a way, then it kind of forces them to do things a little bit different. So I would say that's pretty much the best way to go about it.
Sounds like you got really good at creating allies for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the key.
Yeah, great. So next, let's go to Jamey.
So, absolutely. Part of my condition at L4 is an effect of my lungs. So I was prone to bronchitis and pneumonia quite a bit, and neurological issues. So I frequently had chronic migraines. So I wound up missing, I'll actually start with high school. I wound up missing 270 days of high school. I just remember that particular number. But college, it slowed down. I had a very, like Kayla mentioned, a very supportive disability community to fall back on within the university. But allies and friends really were the ones that were able to help keep up with my notes that I missed during class, or let me know that a assignment was given out, those sorts of things. So I would definitely lean on your friends and any allies or support structures that you can find. For me, I was able to do that and eventually find my way. But I think that's one of the keys that anyone should have, is find allies and friends that you can lean on if you need to, because sometimes it's hard to support yourself in a big new environment.
Yeah. And Sherry, next to you.
Yeah, I had a lot of challenges with reading. Many people with visual impairments, are taught like Braille or how to use speech technologies. But because I had a lot of vision, then I was really only geared in the direction of large print. And at the time, I didn't realize that it just wasn't enough, and I probably should have tried some other methods as well. So reading for me visually is incredibly slow. And it took me a really long time to really figure out to understand like the extent of my disability and how it affected me, because visual perception is just a very sort of amorphous thing to begin with. And when you don't have anything to compare to, then you're not really aware of, what you can see and what you can't and what might work better for you. So it wasn't until college that I really realized that there are certain things that are difficult for me because of my vision, and that I need to learn other methods of doing them. So I think that overall, this led me to kind of steer away from subjects that were heavier on reading, unfortunately. And that's probably another reason that I ended up doing computer science. And it's funny because now that I learn how to use speech, text-to-speech in particular for reading, I read so much. And growing up, I would just do anything I could to avoid reading. And I think that also taught me how to be very kind of analytical and a good problem solver, because I would constantly be trying to look for shortcuts.
And so, Sherry, do you think that now reading is a superpower for you? Can you do it faster than most other people?
I think writing is a superpower for me, because I would always break things down trying to figure out like how, given the time that I have, how can I get the most out of this passage? Because there's just no way that I could read the whole thing. So it kind of taught me to write in a way that made it very easy for other people to read and to understand.
Yeah, okay, fascinating. And Brandon, it sounds like your motorcycle accident was when you were 14 years old. So I guess, what were you, a freshman in high school about that, or what grade were you in?
Yeah, exactly. I was a freshman in high school, and I would say that my disability hurt and benefited me at the same time. It benefited me in the way that I'd actually just started homeschooling that semester to go race motocross more frequently. We were going to be traveling a lot and going to be in different states all over the country for multiple days at a time. So it just made more sense for me to go that route. And luckily, I say that kind of funny enough, luckily I got hurt after just missing one semester of ninth grade, just the second semester. So I was able to come back to school, make up that semester, and, finish high school, get a diploma, which is very key in this world. I'm glad I really went back. I'm glad I went back and was able to finish that. And I think if it hurt at all, my disability being there, it may have just been getting around school, trying to get to certain classes that were in trailers that I couldn't get to, unfortunately. And I don't know, other than that, like everybody else has said, I kind of just had a friend to lean on to help me out and get me through everything. And I kind of made my way through, found out. I think it's tough for everybody, high school and middle school and anything like that. It's tough for anybody growing up. So doing it with the disability is like an extra challenge, but you get through it.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So Brandon, let's stay with you for this next one. Have you ever felt embarrassed about your disability? And if so, how did you deal with that?
Oh, all the time. I remember specifically there was one day I was leaving that high school. I think it was in 10th grade. We had a really big hill that you go down. Actually, it must have been freshman year because they made the freshmen off campus in a church parking lot across the street. So I remember I was wheeling down the hill to go get one of my friend's cars. And for some reason, when I got to the bottom of the hill, like I set my front wheels down and my wheelchair just stopped. And I fell out in front of everybody. And it was like all the beautiful senior girls and junior girls out there. And you're just and this is like 6 months after I'd been hurt. So I'm still getting used to just being in a wheelchair and, getting comfortable with myself. So when anything like that happened, it was just easier to laugh at myself and just realize that I know nobody really cared. Like nobody's really trying to make fun of me for that. Like nobody was going to be mean about that. And it was just like, well, this is my life now. These things are going to happen. So just learn to adjust and roll with the punches and, just go with it. It's easier to laugh at yourself than to be laughed at for sure.
Yeah. Now, and I'll open it up to anyone else, everyone who wants to jump in on that one. Have you ever felt embarrassed about your disability, and how did you overcome it?
I definitely felt embarrassed about my disability when I was a teenager. And I mean, looking back, it was, I wish I could go back and slap myself because it was so stupid. I would refuse to use any like magnifiers or like any assistive technologies because I was embarrassed. I didn't want to be different and stand out. But what would end up happening is that I wasn't able to read things or to do things. So let's say I had to read something out loud and I would read it incorrectly. And it, finally hit me one day that that's actually more embarrassing than just telling people, hey, I have a visual impairment and this is what I need to see, which, is surprisingly not the easiest thing to do. I think that it took me, again, not until after college. So only after college, I learned how to like very simply explain, like, I have a visual impairment, so I can't see, I need to use a magnifying glass. Just very simply. And like some people get it and some people don't. And you just gotta, move on and not waste your time on people who don't.
Yeah. Anyone else want to jump in on that one?
Yeah, I'll kind of add on to what Brandon and Sharia both said. I went through some similar situations with school. I feel elementary school and middle school were certainly harder from a, being made fun of perspective or dealing with comprising situations that people aren't really ready to handle in a mature way. But moving into high school and certainly college, asking for help became something that I was a little bit more accustomed to doing, acknowledging that I needed it on occasion instead of just having that chip on my shoulder and, every time someone offered to open the door for me, just kind of giving them a scowl and say, why would you do this? I'm just like you. I can open my own door. And taking that as an insult rather than taking it as an opportunity to connect with someone who's trying to help you. And getting my head around that transition, actually, I think was more beneficial to my growth as a whole than really just the external validation that I got from my peers, kind of acknowledging that what I was asking for from a help perspective was okay. So really learning that I need to get out of my own head and understand that asking for help is okay, I think was how I overcame that.
Yeah. Okay. Next question is open for the group. Anyone feel free to jump in. And it is, what do you do when people make incorrect assumptions about your abilities?
I think for me, I just kind of have that conversation with them, just kind of curious, where did you get that from? Why do you think that way? I know in general, when I first meet people, I say, hey guys, I'm very open. It's okay to ask me questions. If you ever think you're not sure if this assumption is right, but you could just say it, even though it's potentially ignorant, because really just having that conversation, because you don't know what you don't know. So a lot of the times it's usually a good conversation. Then sometimes people go, oh, I didn't know this was wrong, or wait, I didn't know So if you don't know, you can't really judge, you can't really get mad at them right away. You kind of just have to be open because people are willing to learn and want to know more if you're actually just not, just judging them right away and just being open-minded. You kind of get better results that way. But then even if you do come across some people that are not open, then, oh, well, you did try.
Sure. Any other thoughts on that one?
I can say something. So for me, it kind of goes in either direction. Some people treat me like I'm totally blind, and then other people will treat me like I have, no problem whatsoever. And the first thing I would say is that you have to think about, is it even worth it? Because honestly, I can't just spend all day explaining to people what my vision is and visual ability. If it's a short interaction, I just have to learn to let it go as much as it bothers me and just move on. But if it's a longer interaction, then, I think it helps to explain in sort of practical terms, I have low vision, so this is what I need.
Yeah, that's really smart.
Yeah, I'll hop in real quick as well.
Yeah.
I think for me with a physical disability, it's more people, I guess, underestimating what I can do or just trying to be nice and, open a door for you, just kind of make your life a little bit easier. And just the way I've dealt with it is seeing it that way. It's like these people aren't trying to be rude. They're, lending out a helping hand. And I was naive to people with disabilities, and I'm still naive to certain disabilities that are out there right now that I just have no experience with. So I think it's more about being open-minded to those people that are just trying to help, even though sometimes it feels like they're demeaning you a little bit or kind of saying that they don't think that you can do what they're doing for you. It's just kind of going with it and telling them thank you. And like Jamey said, there's always an opportunity to meet somebody and network with somebody that's just offering a helping hand.
Yeah. Let's transition out of the disability discussion for a minute and go to a little bit more of a general topic. Brandon, during your introduction, you mentioned that one of your biggest challenges is staying focused. And I think for all of us, be it student or professional or parent or you name it, in this day and age, staying focused is just incredibly difficult. What advice can you guys provide to the students that are watching today that will help them stay focused? And just feel free to jump in. Anyone take the mic and run with it.
For me, I believe, so a few things. Meditation is a very big one. I was somebody, especially as a kid and even now as an adult, I'm always in my head about certain things, and I can create narratives over different conversations and just get completely distracted by things that don't even matter. So for me, meditation was great because it helped me just slow my mind down and be able to focus on what I needed to get done, essentially, as well as just being able to shut the phone off for a little bit, get away from your phone. It's very hard to stay focused these days. And I think having at least a 3 to 5 task list of things that you need to get done during the day before your day's over will help a lot. And once you start doing those 3 to 5 things, you'll end up doing more. It'll just snowball into more things that you want to get done because you're already focused and in that zone. So those are a few things that have helped me along the way.
Others?
Yeah, very similar for myself. I find that creating a calendar, and I actually have it to my right, but you can't quite see it in camera, having a calendar that just completely runs my day, even when it's a mundane task. I put it on the calendar so that I know that I have time for it, and I don't wind up sitting here idle wondering what I'm supposed to be doing. I've already told myself what I need to do to be somewhat successful for the whole day, and that way I certainly avoid analysis paralysis, and I find that I've actually gotten at least something done rather than wondering what I should be getting done. So I would run a calendar and task list.
Others?
Yeah, I think those are really good pieces of advice. I would also say take some time to do something that feels good, that's not competitive or task oriented. I've always been a very competitive person, like internally with myself. So I'd feel bad if I felt that I wasn't good at something. And it took me a while to just be at peace with doing an activity and not, for example, yoga or meditation, and not overthinking it, just enjoying the moment. Learn how to be at peace with yourself, with your body, with your mind. I think that's really important.
Okay. All right. Well, we have about 5 minutes left here in the panel discussion, so we'll run through these last few questions. What advice can each of you provide that will help the students in the audience get prepared for a career in STEM? And just jump in, anyone.
That's tough for me to say, because I was never the most academic person ever in my life. You can ask my mom about this. She always wished I was as competitive in school as I was with everything else in life. So I don't know if I'm the right person to ask, but I would just say make sure it's something that you're passionate about. Don't get into it for money or because you think it's the right thing or because everybody else is doing it. Because after a while, no amount of money will make it worth it. So do something that really interests you, something you have a passion about, something that you feel like helps people and kind of gives something back to the world or the community, and focus on that. That would be kind of my advice for people getting into any sort of career.
Absolutely. I'll just kind of add on that I think finding something that you don't mind doing Monday through Friday is key. If you find yourself looking forward to Fridays, you might be in the wrong line of work. And hopefully all of these students haven't had to worry about that yet. But as they are thinking about it, I would suggest find something you're passionate about and turn it into a career. Whether you're interested in gaming right now or reading, you can find a path that allows you to stay in tune with technology or stay in tune with the latest fiction, and being able to use those passions for constructive or productive day-to-day activities is key and will make you feel fulfilled. So try to find something that is at least adjacent to what you're interested in already for a hobby.
Yeah, we live in a world of opportunity right now. There's so much access and ways to monetize what you're doing. I think just the key to being successful is consistency and honestly believing in yourself. Self-love is a major thing, and when you start to feel that way about yourself, you start to feel like you deserve things, and those things start to come to you as you keep working towards them. So yeah, that's my last little piece on that.
Wise words.
Yeah.
Kayla and Sharon?
I
Can I
would.
say one last thing? Oh, sorry. I just want to say definitely find a mentor or someone you can talk to know more about STEM, and someone can definitely guide you. So that's my quick snap. You can go for it.
I would say also don't get discouraged because STEM classes can be very hard. I think a lot of people take like an intro computer science class, for example, and then decide, oh, I'm not good at this. This isn't for me. But actually, what you end up doing in your career is quite different than what you do in, the first couple of classes. And you might think initially that you're not good at this or that it's hard. But soon enough, things change. So, I work with students, and I've seen this, throughout my education, how much people change and grow over time. So as long as you have an interest in something, as long as you find it meaningful and fun, then don't let any other nonsense get to you. You're not making the grades that you're expecting, or if you feel like you're not doing as well as your peers, none of that matters, as long as it's fulfilling and meaningful to you.
Wise words. Last question, and we'll have to do it in about 20 seconds apiece. What topics would you like to discuss with students in your breakout sessions that'll happen in about 20 or 25 minutes? We'll go Sherry, Kayla, Jamey, and Brandon. Sherry?
I can talk to people about computer science, studying computer science, doing research, being a professor, academic or research career path.
Kayla?
For me, I could talk about pretty much my experience in depth or just really in general, academics, college, how to get into IT with or without college degrees as well.
Jamey?
So I'm certainly able to talk about career development and potential career paths for people, whether they're going down computer sciences or some of the other STEM-based industries. I think just my years of experience in recruiting will at least be able to prepare for some of what will be coming, and hopefully I can give you some advice on career paths.
Yeah. Jamey, are you accepting resumes?
I sure am.
Great. And Brandon?
Yeah, for me, I plan on kind of focusing on self-doubt and overcoming obstacles. And yeah, pretty much that. Just finding your passion and working towards it, even when things seem like they're very bleak and they may never happen, essentially.
Yeah, that is terrific. Guys, this has been a great discussion. I mean, I enjoyed it more than I thought I would, frankly, and I learned a few things. Unfortunately, we have to wrap it up now and move off to our intermission. So I know the students in the audience will look forward to joining you in the breakout sessions in just a few minutes. Feel free to turn off your cameras and just kind of sit back and enjoy as we close out towards intermission, and we'll see you in the breakout sessions.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the STEM Career Showcase. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Laura Beth Spear. I'm a museum educator. And let's see, I am 5 feet tall. I am white. I have brown hair. And I'm holding a snake. What? Am I starting from the top?
And I'm Tom Haynes. And I'm an audio describer. I'm going to be describing the animals that Laura Beth will be demonstrating so that people who are blind or low vision can better understand what we're showing off today. I'm about 6 feet tall, very skinny and pale skinned, and very excited to be here today.
Yeah, and the animals that I have here today, including this kind of a rowdy snake here, they are all from North Carolina, and they're going to help me teach you about what they do when they're in the wild. And this one we're going to start with is a pine snake. Specifically, it's a northern pine snake, and the name is a little bit of a misnomer. She's a little rowdy. All right, let's get her settled here. Well, Tom, maybe you can describe the snake for a little bit. Remember I said I'm 5 feet tall. How long do you think this snake is?
Funny you should say that, Laura Beth, because I believe that snake is about 5 feet long.
Yes, yeah, it is definitely about 5 feet long. Their maximum length is about 5.5 to 6 feet long. However, there have been some that were about 7 feet. So this is a pretty large snake in North Carolina. And they do live in other areas of the United States. They're found mostly in the southeastern part of the country. So, you know, to say that they are the northern pine snake is a little bit of a confusing name. And there are spots of their range in New Jersey. So some of you joining us from out of state may have seen the snake in different habitats that are like sandy. They prefer really sandy soils. And they, you know, rely on their coloration to blend in.
Yeah, the snake is mottled in color. It's got areas of dark, kind of a flat black, interspersed with areas of scales that look kind of like make a pale yellow or off-white. The head is about the same width as the body, so it's not like a pit viper head, which is really wide. Tail tapers down. The nose of the head kind of comes to a point, which probably helps the snake get into tight areas. Right now, he's moving around quite a bit, and Laura Beth's doing her best to hold on.
I am, yeah. So, and really what they like to do is just explore. You know, you might see that it's sticking its tongue out. I want to make sure that I'm keeping all of its weight supported, just so that it's comfortable. And so, you know, with that long body, it can be kind of difficult. But one thing that's really cool about these is the way that they protect themselves. So they actually, this coloration that they have and even some of their behavior helps mimic a rattlesnake. So, you know, it's not really putting on a show right now, but often we love to say that they have more bark than they have bite, because they will, if they're defending themselves, they will puff up their bodies with air. They'll hiss really loudly. And I know a lot of people think that all snakes hiss loudly, but with the pine snake, it's really like an art form. They have a flap of skin in their throat, and so when they hiss, that flap of skin will vibrate. And it actually makes their hiss, makes their hiss much louder.
Yeah, the snake was just looking right at Laura Beth there, and The tongue is going in and out quite a bit while the snake senses its environment. Laura Beth, I was wondering, why are you wearing gloves?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. So right now we're wearing gloves when we handle all of our animal ambassadors, and that's really just because even though, snakes and other animals that are not mammals, they aren't shown to have the coronavirus diseases. But we still want to be safe with our animals, and so that's why I'm wearing gloves. Even though it will mimic a rattlesnake, it's non-venomous, and so it's not really likely to hurt me, and it doesn't have, nasty germs or, whatever on its skin. So I'm not wearing gloves for myself, but really more for the snake. Yeah. All right. So I think we are going to go ahead and meet our next animal ambassador, and I am going to have to switch gloves. So let me go over to my cart. We're going to put our snake back in its container here. This is just its travel container. At the museum, our animal ambassadors have a nice big room. It's got lots of soil so that it can, bury its head in that soil and move around. And we're going to move on to a very special turtle here in North Carolina. And it is called a diamondback terrapin. It's found in the estuaries and brackish salt marshes of North Carolina. So on the East Coast, and it's found in, up north from Cape Cod, down south to the Gulf of Florida. So we are super happy to be able to call this turtle a resident of our home, even if it is clawing at me right now. I'm still happy that it makes its home in North Carolina. Oh, there goes a bit of my glove.
See that? Okay, well, this turtle is, I would say the shell is about 7 or 8 inches long by about 4 or 5 inches. The top of the shell is divided up into, I'd say, 3 rows of 4, 5, and 4 interlocking scales that are kind of a brown-black color. The head is really interesting. It's white with lots of black markings, and its head goes up to a point, similar to what the snake had, again, to let it get into tighter spaces and that sort of thing. 2 prominent nostrils, 4 legs that are flailing a bit right now, with little sharp claws on the end and a small tail in the back.
Right, and these sharp claws are not typically used to scratch up, what it thinks might be a predator or something else. The claws are actually used to help it hold on to the muddy bottoms of, the water where it usually lives. And I mentioned that this turtle is super special, and one of those is because, we have sea turtles and then we have freshwater aquatic turtles. This is the only turtle that can live in either freshwater or in that brackish, salty water, and it has some adaptations to help it sense different salinities or salt levels of the water. And if it finds that it's in water that's too salty, it will actually drink rainwater as it's falling from the sky. Or if it's not currently raining, it'll go up to the surface and it'll start drinking like a freshwater pool that has formed on the surface of the estuary. And I know you all are probably thinking, like, what does it eat? What does this turtle eat? It doesn't have any teeth, which I'm not going to demonstrate for you because I don't want to get bitten. Like other turtles, it has a beak, and it has a really strong beak. In fact, one thing that Tom, I don't remember if you pointed this out, but it has a mustache. And so that's just a difference in different individuals. So sometimes the males will have a darker mustache on the top of their beak. But it's not always true. In fact, this is a female. But with their strong beak, they will eat things that have a hard shell. So they'll break through the shells of crustaceans, different crabs like fiddler crabs, clams, mussels, things that make their home in those estuaries. And one thing that's also super cool about the diamondback terrapin, and that makes me feel so lucky to call it a resident here, is that in the 1920s, they actually nearly went, their population decreased by a lot because of overhunting. They were actually hunted for food, and so they are protected now, in part because of, we've learned from our mistakes, but also because they represent such a, unique aspect of the estuary system. And so you can actually see one at the museum. We have a very friendly diamondback terrapin that's on display. He will, I'm sure some of you that have been to our museum have said hello to the diamondback terrapin.
Laura Beth's been losing little bits of her blue gloves as the terrapin has been clawing a bit at her hands.
I have been. I've been trying to control those claws, but I can't. It's got those huge, flat, webbed feet in the back, so perfect for pushing away, water as it swims. And it's kind of course, she's calmed down now, but it's a force to be reckoned with. And I know this is a female just because the underside is completely flat.
Yeah, the underside is quite brown. Again, segmented in about 10 different segments. Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah, they do. They have a really beautiful shell, hence the name Diamondback.
Yes.
All right, so let's go ahead and meet our last North Carolina animal ambassador.
I believe that turtle, by the way, is the reason that the University of Maryland is known as the Terrapins.
Yes.
And she just put him back into about 4 inches of water. That's what he is in right now.
Oh yeah, and if you can see it in the background at all, or if you start to be able to see it, you will notice that it is very active as it swims around. But I'm going to go ahead and switch out my gloves, and we're going to meet our last animal. And this one, you might wonder why I saved the smallest for last. But this guy is really, really special. And it's a type of salamander. And in North Carolina, we have about 60 species of salamanders. So we're pretty famous for our slimy, species that are found around the world, and that we have so many in North Carolina. So, of course, I wanted to highlight the state salamander, the marbled salamander. So in North Carolina, it lives in mostly the Piedmont, like to the western Piedmont and the coastal plain in the east. And it spends most of its time underground. It's actually a type of mole salamander, but we call it the marbled salamander because of that lovely pattern on its back.
Yes, this salamander is about 5 inches long. It's black with, they look like silvery bands across every, maybe a third of an inch down its body. Its tail comes to a tapered end, and it's got 4 active feet moving right now along her 2 hands.
It is.
And a small head.
Yeah, it's very active, and I would also like to add that its eyes kind of bulge out of its head, right? I like to say that it's got pretty buggy eyes. So most salamanders are nocturnal, including this guy, and its eyes help it, see in that nocturnal environment. And it's carnivorous, so it's going to be hunting for different prey items. It's usually hunting things that are small that it can fit in its mouth, like, think of crickets or maybe worms. Something like that. And one thing that's amazing about salamanders is that really so many things, but they have the ability to breathe through their skin. And so actually with salamanders, we always wear gloves, and that's to protect the salamander and not to protect ourselves, because since they can breathe through their skin, they might be breathing in any chemicals that I've got on my hands, and so that's really to protect the salamander. Now they can secrete a milky white poisonous substance, but they really only do that if they're about to be bitten by a predator.
The salamander keeps moving forward, so Laura Beth has to keep moving her backhand in front to keep the lizard happy.
Yeah, and we call this treadmilling, and it is a salamander. I'm sure you meant to say that instead of lizard, but a lot of you watching probably also thought, hey, that's a lizard. And one of the big differences is that the salamander doesn't have claws. It also doesn't have any scales. And so it's got really, really wet skin, whereas a lizard would have, dry scales. All right.
Yeah, that's a good point. Very, very wet. Very, not dry at all.
Yeah. They can also regenerate different parts of their body. So you may have heard of the salamander called the axolotl, and that one lives in Mexico, so we don't have that in North Carolina, although we do have some relatives. But the axolotl has been studied, and they know that it can regenerate parts of its brain and spinal cord. So just, they're truly, truly incredible animals. And so I hope that you get a chance to see a salamander if you ever go for walks. You know, they're breeding for this particular species. They usually breed in September through November. So you might spot salamander eggs if you find what's called a seasonal pool, or sometimes just a puddle that has filled up with water, with rainwater. They love those as a habitat for their eggs and their larvae, or their babies, because it doesn't have any fish that will eat their babies or their larvae.
Someone's excited about the salamander.
Yeah, we have an excited visitor here at the museum. That's why we both paused. My last fun fact, I think, about our salamander is that, you know, we called it a marbled salamander because of that pattern. And, you know, each individual can have a unique pattern. So we might not always be able to spot the differences between one marbled salamander to the next, but they sure can. They can spot tiny differences in these like stripes and splotches that are on them. And also, you might have wondered, what is this yellow glob that I've got in my hand? That is actually just moss that I put here because it does like to stay in moist, humid environments. That allows it to breathe through its skin. All right. And Tom, have I missed anything? Do you have any other observations or behaviors that you wanted to point out?
You know, it just reminds me so much of growing up in Cleveland, Ohio, and looking under rocks in the woods and finding all these wonderful newts and salamanders and so on.
Yeah, that's a great point. We have some excellent educators here at the museum who have told us how to, you know, look for stuff under a log. And, you know, if you ever want to go searching for salamanders under rocks or logs, just make sure you do so safely. And I recommend you head to our YouTube channel to find out how to do that.
One thing is, I don't think I described how thick this animal is. He's about a thickness of a quarter, I'd say. It's thicker than, you know, you think of most newts and smaller salamanders.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, and that's something that's classic for mole salamanders in the family Ambistomidae. They typically have a thicker body than, you know, slender newts or other types of salamanders that we might think of. So with that, everyone, thank you so much for joining us for this Meet the Animals intermission. And remember, I called these animal ambassadors. We call them that because they help represent their wild counterparts, and they help me teach you about what they do in the wild. So I hope that now that you've met some of our animal ambassadors, I hope that you will be an animal ambassador and you will share everything that you learned during this quick intermission. And don't leave us for STEM just yet. We have our breakout sessions starting at 2:45, and yeah, we're gonna head back to Ed. Thanks. Bye.
Laura, Beth, and Tom. That is quite possibly my favorite segment of the showcase. In just a few minutes, you all will have the opportunity to talk with Gina-Maria and our panelists. If you haven't registered for the breakout sessions yet, go to naturalsciences.org/STEM and register. After you complete the registration form, you'll receive an automated email that contains the links to the 5 breakout sessions. And you have just a few minutes to register now. As we wrap up the showcase, I'd like to leave you with 3 final thoughts. First, this event would not be possible without the generous support from our sponsors. They include SAS, JUMP, EarnCo, LabCorp, Red Hat, and the Bressler Charitable Giving Fund. Thank you so much to our sponsors. Second, I want to encourage you all to check out our virtual exhibitors. You can do that by going to naturalsciences.org/STEM and clicking on the link on the left-hand side that says Virtual Exhibitors. Finally, in the next few days, you will receive an email that contains a survey for this event. Please take a few minutes to complete the survey. Your feedback will help us improve the event so we can reach more students next year. It certainly has been a pleasure to spend time with you all today. and I hope to see you all in the breakout sessions that start at 2:45. On behalf of the entire team here at the museum, thanks, and we hope to see you again next year.